All right. Boom. Just like that.
Nah.
Yes, sir. How you doing today?
Doing well this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, got some nice sunshine going on.
I know. Beautiful. Went for a nice walk yesterday. The sky is beautiful. The mountains are beautiful. I was the only one messing up the whole scene.
Was it your shirt?
Yeah. What's wrong with my shirt?
Nothing wrong with your
This
shirt.
is the OG. This is the original. All I could afford was the embroidered letters. That was the beginning of it all. That was the
I
beginning.
appreciate the loudness. That it doesn't work well with my eyes. So
Yeah, see, Jig loves it. So it's perfect in his opinion.
nice.
Jig, you're such a pal. You're such a pal. Thank you. You're helping my emotional ability here. All right, what are we doing today? Teacher? I'm sitting in the front of the class.
You taking notes? Are you taking notes?
Oh, heck yeah. I am going for extra credit today.
I'm assuming that you have to do extra credit. You have to do everything you got to get credit for before you get the extra stuff. Let's be honest. We don't understand how that works, right?
Oh my gosh, you know what I call that? I call that the fifth fender.
The fifth fender?
Yeah. Because when I'm teaching kids robotics, they get out of control and they start decorating and building and elaborating on something that is completely not going to work. And I'm like, you're working on like your fifth fender and you don't even have a working robot yet. So we need to get to a working robot first. Nice. Then you can start. So I actually took all the stuff, all the cool stuff, put it in the bling box, and I teased them with, you can't get into the bling box until you prove to me that your robot works.
Nice.
That's a good motivator. But yeah, like it's easy to get distracted with this stuff. It's gorgeous.
Oh, yeah.
Gorgeous.
We're gonna. I know every time I go and play with this stuff, I'm like, oh, I can do a thing, and then I'm like, just get the base, get it in there first. Put it in first, and we'll make it happen.
Oh man, yeah, it's unreal how Unreal makes this stuff so easy. So should I turn over control to the wha-bam
like you do?
Yeah, that's how I do.
So let's jump into this. One of the things that we're going to assume is that you have an environment. And you at least know how to navigate. It's going to be the big things on there. If you've closed your entire world and then opened it back up and noticed that your world didn't actually load up, that's not such a bad deal. All you got to do is just double click on this little landscape thing down here, wherever your level happens to be, and then it'll actually load up that level. So you can just kind of jump right into it. Something else that I'm going to do for those of you that know how to do a little bit of coding, you may notice that when you're hovering over certain things, you get this little pop-up that shows up, and they're like, if I hover over like anything, like they're just, it gets totally in the way. And I hate that thing. It drives me bonkers, especially when I'm trying to teach, because it gets in the way of things, although it is helpful for some stuff. So I'm going to show you how to turn it on and turn it off very easily. So to do this, down in the very bottom center of the screen, so I can zoom in here, and if you hit the tilde key, you'll get this little command. And what you can do is you can type in slate.enable tooltips -0, and this will turn those things off. You'll notice they're at the top of my screen. I've actually got two of them. And like anything with code, if you hit up and down, you can actually kind of jump between these. So slate.enable tooltips -0, and that will turn them off. Whoops, I want to do that button. So hit up on the keyboard, do 0, and then A, and then if I hover over stuff, it isn't there. The reason I like to kind of keep it here is because when I'm teaching, sometimes it's really helpful to have that, because there are certain things that are very useful to kind of understand, like, oh, what is that actually doing, kind of a thing. So a little pro tip to start us off. Okay, so what we're going to do today is paint. So we're going to put texture on top of this entire landscape. We're going to do it two different ways. We're going to do it with two different materials. One of them we're just going to paint on there. It's going to be awesome, not a problem there. And the other one we're going to do it in kind of a procedural way. So you can kind of mix and match these if you so choose. I find that one kind of works better for other things. You know, how artistic do I really want to get? So we're going to start with the painting one, because I'm an artist guy and I kind of like that, right? So to begin this off, let's make sure we are in just the regular select mode here. And I won't need that on the side there. And I want to go ahead and create a material for this landscape. So we're going to create a landscape material. Very simple to do. Just right click anywhere down here in the bottom area. And then what we're going to choose is a material. A little green one right there-ish. All right, and we're just going to say M underscore, we'll call this landscape. SCA escape, and we'll call this one paint. We're going to be our paint one. If you've never played with materials, don't worry too much. This is actually going to be pretty easy, and everything that we need is actually inside the Unreal Engine, so you don't have to worry about bringing anything in. So I'm just going to go ahead and double click on this, and we're going to get a whole new window, and I'm just going to dock this up here at the top. And this is our material node. So this has got everything in it that we're going to need. So we've got things like base color, metallic, specular roughness, blah, 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 all kinds of things. We're really only going to play with a couple of these, but we do need some textures. We are going to use a sandstone texture and a grass texture, and we're going to use those two to paint on everything. And then we're also going to use what's called a constant 3, which is basically just 3 numbers, red, green, and blue. And we're going to use that as some snow. So to get those, we need to go back over to our level landscape over here. And what we're going to look for in here are 3 specific textures. Now, you may or may not be able to get at these right away. I'm going to go ahead and click on content over here, and let's look for grass. Hey, there it is. Cool. It popped up. What we want is this grass, this tea ground grass D. So this is our diffuse color for this. I'm going to grab my material and slide it over to the side here. And you can literally just grab this and drag it in there. Boom. So then we have our texture sample. There are a couple of ways to get these texture samples in here. I'm just going to do the same thing again. So what we're going to look for is sand. We should get our tea rock sandstone diffuse right here as well. We'll just drag that one in here. Now I'm going to keep these materials uber simple. I am not going to be grabbing their actual normal maps, but you can kind of see where this is going and put these together.
What is a normal map for those that don't know?
Yes, a normal map. Okay, so yeah, that's a good question. Let's actually take a look at this. So if I double click on this, we can have a look at it. So a normal map, this is what a normal map looks like. This is specifically the tangent space or a local space one. And what it's doing is it's going to say, hey, when the light hits this, I want you to reflect it in a very specific direction and make it look like this actual material. So if you have a flat polygon and you put this on there, it'll make it look like it's actually got this undulation surface, and it doesn't cost any polygons. So it's a little bit less expensive. So what does it do? What does it look like? That's a walkthrough on what it does. We could definitely do a bit more materials later. And I would like to kind of do some in here, because it's worth it to kind of jump in, but I want to get through I want to get through all 4 fenders before we put the 5th one on there.
Oh man.
We're going to do that first.
I don't know if you're ready for a distraction, but my project did not load the to my island.
You did not do. Oh, so yeah, this is what I was talking about in the beginning. Let's go back over there.
And I couldn't find what you were talking about there in the content browser.
So did you save your level last time?
I really wanted to.
Okay, so let's take a quick distraction. Let's see your screen. Let's see what we got here. Let's walk you through this.
Okay. All right. Oops, wrong button.
Wait for it.
I am getting there. Okay. Share. There we go.
Awesome. Okay, so with your content folder selected.
Yeah, down here.
Down there. And then over there on the right in the filters.
Yep.
Just move right in there. Type in the word level. Ooh, maybe gone. Okay, so let's do this. Right next to where you're typing in, there is another little filters thing. Click on that. Yep, that one. And then up toward the top, about 4th one down, says level. Click that. Do you see your level as any of those 5?
No. New map. 3rd person. Like what's interesting here says 3rd person example map. Over here is landscape demo.
So the one on the right is the name of the project.
Right.
The one on the left is the name of the level you're in.
Don't tell me this.
Try clicking on that new map down there in the bottom.
Yeah, it kind of is this. Let's see. I'm so happy because look at this freaking piece of artwork right here. Come on, this thing needs a texture.
It's gorgeous.
Okay.
It's gorgeous.
I'm back to you, Bob, at the studio.
Cool. All right. A good question, because that's something that most people will run into for sure if they're not used to this stuff. Oh, Godot. You know, I've not actually played with Godot. I know a couple people that have, so it's outside of my wheelhouse. Most of the stuff that we're going to talk about is universal across a lot of game engines. They just have different ways of getting at the buttons. So, yeah, that's what I've got on that. Because I just heard about Godot about 2 or 3 months ago. I didn't even know it was a thing. So that's super cool that you're playing with it. Let me know how it goes. I'd be interested. Okay, so back to our landscape material. Boop, boop, boop. So these two. And we're going to need one more for the actual snow. Now we could manipulate these. Like I said, this is not a materials course, but we could manipulate these to kind of get snow out of it. But instead what we're going to do is we're going to just basically throw in a color. So a nice white color. So you can right click in here, type the word constant. And what we're looking for specifically is a constant tree vector. So this one right here. So this is going to give us red, green, and blue. Just click on that. And this will give us this little guy. Now, obviously, this is not white. This is the opposite of white. So over here in the far left where it says constant, you can click on this bar, this little guy right here, and you will get this giant thing. And all you got to do is just grab the slider, drop it all the way to the top. So we get a nice white color and a little color picker, and then just come down and say, okay. Wait for it, and it will update. Ta-da, there we go. So we've got our snow, we've got our grass, and we've got our sandstone sand kind of thing, right? So now we need to kind of connect these together so that our landscape knows that we want to paint with it. And what we need to do is we need to pick up what's called a landscape layer blend material. You know, it's a mouthful. So I'm going to right click, we'll type in landscape layer. Oops. Cool. And that's the one we're looking for. So this landscape layer blend. Now, a little caveat about this, as soon as we drop it into the material editor here, it's going to go and change its name on us. So when you're going back to do your notes, just make a note that this is the actual landscape layer blend one. You're like, oh, okay, that's a thing, right? Now you'll notice we don't have any inputs on the left-hand side of this. And what we need to do is actually add those. So this is basically an array. This is a list of things that we want to add in. So we want to add in snow, grass, and our sand over here. So over here in the far left in our details, you'll notice that we have our layers. So we have our array elements. So we're just going to say click once, twice, 3 times. So we have 0, 1, and 2. These are our array pieces, our array elements. And I'm going to open up 0. And then this top one, I'm going to name snow. I'm going to zoom out here real quick. I'm going to then open up the second one. We're going to call this one grass. And you'll notice over here in our layer blend, you can see it's already started to change. So we got layer snow, layer grass, layer none. So that's our third one down here. I'm going to name this one sand. Leave that up there for a moment. Like so. So now all we got to do is just kind of attach these suckers together. So we'll just grab our snow, drop it in there. And we're going to grab the RGB value. So the red, green, blue of this one, we'll drop it into the grass. We'll grab this one, we'll drop it into our sand. Now, before we get to a point where we're actually going to connect our base color up here, because it's going to be a little easier to see on this black orb up here in the top left, you can click and drag up here in the top left, and you can kind of rotate the camera around the object. So I'm just going to turn it so we can see the specular highlight. And what I'm looking for specifically is this bright white spot. So this is a specular highlight. We kind of want to turn this down because the snow and the grass and the dirt, they don't have a lot of specularity. It'll be easier to see in the demo. I'll just put it that way. We're basically just going to make something really simple. So we're just going to change the way this works. So there's a couple ways we can do this. If we're going to do something that's physically based rendering, so something that's actual like real world, we can change our roughness. If we want to just get rid of that specular highlight, we can actually change our specular value. I'm going to choose to do the roughness because that's what I would rather do in this case. And what we're going to do to make that happen, we can click and drag on the little pin. So we get a little wire that comes out. Okay. And we're going to type in constant again. But this time we're going to use this first one, just as single constant. So this is just a single constant number. And when our roughness is set to 0, you will notice we now have a mirror. Which, you know, yay.
That's pretty, yeah.
Free mirror, right? We're going to take this and we're actually going to drop it to, or change it rather to 0.9. So not 100% rough, but it'll be quite a bit more matte. Makes that really easy to do. Now we can control our snow, our grass, and our sandstone by using the same technique and then plugging it into the roughness. So we could have 3 different values, 1, 2, 3 across here, and it would understand this because you can grab this, and if you hit Control W, no matter where your cursor is, it'll make a duplicate of it. So you could connect 3 of these into the backside of this and control it that way too. We're going to skip that one for now though. A little something extra credit for y'all to jump in and play with. All right, I'm going to go ahead and take this landscape layer blend and I'm just going to connect it to my base color. Boom, like so. You'll notice nothing really happens. So huzzah, we're winning. So far, so good. All right, now that we've got all this, we want to go ahead and save this so it doesn't go anywhere. Wait for it to do its thing. Cool, we got it. Let's go back over to our landscape. And in here, what we need to do is select our landscape. And if we grab this landscape material, you'll notice over there on the far right, that landscape material starts to light up and we can literally just drag and drop it onto there and then boom. And then wait for it to compile some shaders for a moment. To do its thing. There we go. So your entire thing should turn completely and totally black. That's fine. That's exactly what we would expect. Don't panic. It's supposed to do that. Okay. So now we want to go and paint on this. So just like we were actually doing the sculpting, we're going to go back up into our modes and we're going to go up here into landscape. And whoop, up here at the top, we have 3 tabs. So we've got our manage, we've got our sculpt, we've got our paint. So we're going to go over to paint. Back out of that. And we're going to go ahead and do this. I'm going to go ahead and do this on a new layer. You all can just kind of paint on whichever layer you want, but I'm going to go ahead and create a new one. I've got my river fix over here. I'm going to go and whoops, lock that up and then right click and just say create. We're going to call this one, whoops, let's right click on it again so we can actually rename it. So then we're going to go ahead and let's name this one paint. So you may have noticed that one of the things that we have a problem with is that our little, hey, yeah, this layer has no information assigned to it. You must create and assign a layer. Our little cursor is red, so we can't paint on it. So yeah, we can't do anything just yet. And the reason that is because we actually need to create the thing that it will remember where we're actually painting this. So we're going to create a map that's going to say where we want the snow, grass, and sand. So to do that, that's actually very simple. Over here in this far side, what we need to do is to click on, let's zoom in over here. So snow, there's this little plus icon right here. Just click on that and we're going to choose this weight blended layered normal. Just click on that and we're going to get another little pop-up that says, hey, you're creating something new. Where do you want me to save this? It doesn't really matter. It's going to go ahead and create a new folder for us and it's going to say, hey, this is named the snow layer info. So we'll just say, okay, thank you. You're awesome. And now we have a snow field. We're going to go and do that with the grass and the sand as well. So we'll just go down here, weight layer blend, normal, say okay. We'll go ahead with the sand, do that one, and do that one. At this point, I would definitely do a save. Save all. So I'm just hitting the save all button right here. I'm just going to say save selected because I've got some new information that I want to hold on to just in case Unreal decides to disappear on me. Okay, so this snow cap thing is a little bit ridiculous. A little bit much. I'm going to bring you all back up so I can see questions. All right, perfect. Okay, so, whoops, come here. What we're going to do now is we're actually going to start painting on this. So you can select your snow, you can select your grass, and you can select your sand. I'm going to start at the beach and work my way up to the actual snow cap up there. So with my sand selected, I'm going to make sure my strength is all the way at 100. I'm going to make my radius as big as I can possibly make it. And I'm just going to start painting. And as soon as I do, you'll notice that it like goes, there we go. Now it's back. So then just kind of paint. I'm just going to paint everything. So navigate around the side over here. This is when a fast mouse or a fast camera works really nice.
So the idea here is you're essentially layering your materials. So you're going to be putting on top of this the grass and the snow anyway. So just slam everything, slam it
So I'm just
everywhere.
creating what painters often call a gesso. So I'm just laying the canvas down with this. Now I can go back and change this, and you'll see this as we move forward. But I want this because it's a little easier to see on screen for starters. You can also, if you zip down onto your ground and play, you'll see that we actually have like sand on here. And this isn't the greatest material by any means, but it does work well enough. You will notice that it repeats very obviously. There are lots of ways around that, but this kind of gets you down in there so you can kind of see what this is going to look like. You get an idea of scale, which is kind of cool. Okay, so let's make this radius considerably smaller, and let's actually start adding in some grass. Now this does have, our strength up here at the top as well, our radius and our fall off. So all of this stuff up here will become handy. So kind of keep an eye on that. You will notice that it is kind of over here as well, should you need it. So fall off, let's go, I'm a little bit sharper of an edge on my brush, and radius, well, about there-ish. All right, and I'm also going to give myself a little bit more room to work. So then I'm going to click on the grass layer, and I can just wait for it. Boom. So now I've got grass. Move around here, and then let's go ahead and change my radius a little bit smaller. There we go. So remember when we were doing this originally, we had created components on the landscape. That's these big squares that keep kind of disappearing. So I'll click on this one, you'll see it. Oh, no, it's not going to do it this time. There you go. That figures. So those components have got to load a specific map. That's kind of what it's doing. So that's why it's kind of disappearing. It's going, oh, I have to try and figure out what you want me to put on there. Let me make a thing so I can actually make that happen. So here, and let's make our brush a little bit smaller. And I want to paint these plateaus in here, like so. A little bit up here on the top. So maybe down in these little valleys. But this gives you a real hands-on, this is exactly where I want this. Exactly where I want my happy little trees. This is exactly.
Beat the devil out of it. Yep. There you go.
Down here in the valleys. Maybe I want some, right up along the edges of the river here. So I'll paint some of this stuff on here. If you've got a tablet, this does actually have pressure sensitivity in it a little bit. So I very much appreciate that. I'm using a mouse right now, so I have to change my strength. Oop, let's go this way. The other problem with using a tablet is that trying to navigate in Unreal with a tablet's a little unruly. It definitely takes a little bit of practice. Nothing that can't be overdone dealt with. There we go, like so.
So now, just as a matter of kind of understanding this material, like if you went in and changed the material, it would apply that change to everything that's been laid down using that material, right?
Absolutely.
So if you wanted darker grass, you would really want to like duplicate the material, change that duplicate to darker grass or something like that, and
instead of duplicating the material, because that's a good way to kind of think about it. But instead of doing that, you can actually go directly into here, and we can start to manipulate this. And that's if we've got time at the end. I definitely want to kind of touch on some of that stuff.
Okay.
But the idea is that you can come off of here and be like multiply, and then you can multiply this by a 3 constant, one that's exactly like that snow, and you can actually change the color, or you can add, or you can divide, you can append, you can do some pretty wild mathematics stuff in here. So yes.
How did you get into this screen that you're in right now?
I just clicked on the landscape material that was down in the content browser.
Okay.
Yep. So you just double click on that and it takes you back over here.
I was busy trying to load my project at the time, so.
Gotcha. Okay, so here we have this. So this is cool. Let's go ahead and click on the snow. Let's go ahead and start adding us some snow. So then we can snow cap our mountains up here. And you'll notice it's just painting right over the top of this. Right over the top of it. Just over here. I can go, oh, well, let's actually put a little bit more sand in there. Yeah, and they're like, oh, maybe I want some grass on the side of that. And you see it just kind of replaces it. So you're not like, you don't have to worry about committing too hard. This works pretty well. Boom, 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 boom. Oops, let's get rid of that. There we go. Maybe a little bit of grass in there. So now when we play this, let my character fall out of space. Boom. It looks like we've got grass in certain areas and rock in others. And it blends really nicely right at the edge.
I had a lot of fun with the 90-degree climbing capability. I was like, yeah, jumping off the top of my mountain down to the bottom and stuff.
Definitely, yeah, that's awesome. Cool. I love it. So yeah, this is our landscape painting stuff. So really cool, really easy, very simple. It's nothing too different from actually sculpting. So that's why I wanted to start with this one. But now I am totally going to change the way we're dealing with this. So let's go ahead and leave our mode here. So we have added in a landscape material that we can paint on. And the power behind that is because of this layer blend. This is what's doing this. Now you can add multiples in here. There is a limit to how many textures of these things you can actually have in here. So don't go crazy. That limit is like 16. There are ways around that. We're not going to dive into that now, but just kind of remember that, like, oh, well, if I've got a grass and I've got a normal map that goes with it, that's 2. And if I've got a specular and a roughness map that goes with those, then that's like 4. So there's 4 textures already. So it can get pretty unruly pretty quickly. So keep it manageable as much as you can, and you can definitely kind of play with these and like push it further and further. So let's make a new material. Oh, let's also come down here in the landscape. So with the landscape selected over inside the details, what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this back to its default, which is hitting this little yellow button right here. So this is going to just basically strip that material out of there because we're going to create a new material. And then we'll pull that out of there. Poof. So this goes back to being its normal one. So let's go ahead and create a new one. So just again, right click, same material. I'm going to call this one M Landscape Procedural. Whoops.
Did you make the folder that you're in currently on the content browser, or is that there?
I did, yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. I wanted to make sure that I had everything of mine in one folder.
All right.
Because I'll lose it. I know myself well. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and open up this one, and we'll have a blank material. So this is our procedural one. So we're going to need a couple of the pieces from the other one. We're going to need the snow, we're going to need the sand, and we're going to need grass. So this is kind of cool. If we go back to this other material, okay, so I can just double click on this. If you've got a tab open at the top of your screen, if it's still there, you can click on that. Let's grab this one. I'm going to grab all 3 of these, Control C, copy that. Actually, let's grab this one too. So Control C, let's copy all 4 of these. I am not grabbing the layer blend. I'm just grabbing these 4 right here. Copy those. Let's go into our procedural and Control V. There we go. Control V, and then we can paste them in there. Sometimes you got to click in the grid to get it to do its thing first. We can go ahead and connect our roughness right up. That was that little number, that little constant one. Click that in there. Okay. So we're going to introduce 2 nodes. We're going to need this one later, so we can hide that off there. So the 2 nodes that we're going to bring in are a lerp, and we're also going to bring in a world aligned blend, which is kind of like a lerp too, but it's considerably more powerful. So to get a lerp, a linear interpolate, there's a reason I call it lerps. It's easier. You can actually right click and type in lerp, and you'll get a couple of them in here. You're like, well, what are all these little things, right? There's like millions of them. Well, we want one specific one, and it's just the simple one. So if you hold the L key, as in lerp, and then left mouse click, you'll actually get one. And this is the one we're looking for. Makes life really easy. So we've got an A, we got a B, and we've got an alpha. Hey, Clever Like, you want to explain how these things work?
What, linear interpolation?
Yeah, maybe you get a better explanation, because I always get confused when I'm talking about them. I know what they do, but I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, so like, I mean, one way to look at it is that if you set a starting point and an ending point, it will interpolate all the values in between that, basically. So you say at this point it needs to be this, and at that point it needs to be that. It'll basically blend the numbers or the values from that point to the next point, kind of like keyframes. And by doing it in a linear way, it'll be divided equally along the space. So it's not going to be like a sine curve or some other algorithm.
Yeah, what he said.
I think that's my.
So what we're going to do, the way we're going to use this is that on our world, go over to this side here. So within our world, we have areas that are nice and flat. Okay. And we've got these other areas that are, let's do it with this color, that are very vertical. Okay. So what we're going to say is that on the flat areas, we're going to put in sand. Nope, I lied. We're going to put in grass. And then on these vertical ones, we're going to put in that sandstone. Okay. So we're going to linearly interpolate between the angles of these polygons. So these ones are more, they're faced horizontal, where these ones are faced more vertical. So we're going to interpolate between those, and this thing's going to procedurally just kind of cover the ground with this material. Okay. So we actually need to flip these for organizational purposes. So we're going to take our sand and we're going to drop that into A. We're going to take our grass and we're going to drop that into B. Okay. Now the alpha is what's actually going to be interpolating between these. So we're going to add in what's called a world aligned blend. So we can right click, say world aligned, and we'll zoom in on that so you can see what that looks like. So world aligned blend. So what this is doing is it's looking at the polygons and saying, hey, which direction are the pixels and which direction are they actually faced in the world? So just grab this one. Boom. And we get this huge, big, scary node. That's fine. We're going to take
so many connections.
so many things. So we're going to take our alpha, this top one on the right, and connect that with the alpha. So like, cool, that works well. Now we do need to actually have a couple of inputs that go into this. And this is where this is where the surprise comes in. I'm going to introduce something a little bit different. It's basically this. In fact, it is exactly what this one is. The same thing that we've got connected to the roughness, but it's a parameter. And what that's going to allow us to do is have control over it kind of in real time, at least in the editor. I mean, I guess you could probably fiddle with it in game too. And to get one of these, we're going to drag off of, so let me zoom in on this. From our world blend, we're just going to right click on it, and we're going to say promote to parameter. Just give that a click and you'll get this blend sharpness. Yay, parameter 0. So this is the same thing here. Just Unreal has gone through and turned it into a parameter and given it its name based on the little pin that we right clicked on. We're going to also do that on our blend bias that's just below it. So right click on it and just say promote to parameter. Cool. So now we've got these two parameters. So this is where being an artist is kind of helpful in that I know that while I'm playing with these things, I don't want to go to 0 infinity and positive infinity. Like, I don't want these infinities and crazy numbers. So I'm going to kind of clamp this and say, well, you can only move these sliders a certain distance. Like I don't want you to move them too far. So with this blend sharpness over here on the far left, we've got a couple of pieces over here. Let's go ahead and zoom in on it. We've got a default value. So what is this going to be? Whoa, hey, come back here. So what is this going to be when the artist, myself, or whoever happens to be working on it, what is the value that's going to be in there by default? So we're just going to type in 10. Well, that's a nice round number. The slider minimum, I'm going to set this at 1. And then the slider maximum, I'm going to set this one at 50. Now, the reason I'm coming up with these numbers is because I've played with this prior, and I know that these numbers work pretty well. So depending on your project, you may need to kind of mess with these depending on how you want to mess with them. I know that's redundant, but that's really what it is. All right, so then our blend bias, we're gonna do the same kind of thing. We are going to change the numbers just a little bit though. So by default on our blend bias, we're gonna set this one as -5. And then the slider minimum, we're gonna set this one at -20. And our slider maximum, we're gonna set at, well, let's say -1. That should work out well. So this is our blend bias, and these are the 3 values that we're going to have in here. Now, you'll see where these are going to come in handy in just a moment, so just bear with me. I swear, it'll be useful. Always set yourself up for success. All right.
Those blue materials that you got, how did you get them in there?
This guy right here.
The grass and the sand.
The grass and the sand. Oh, these guys right here, the texture samples.
Yeah.
I just did a copy and paste from our other material.
How'd you get those there?
So, oh, yeah. Go into your content, and then in search content, if you search for grass, you will find this one right here.
Okay.
And if you take your procedural material, either one of them, you can literally just drag and drop these into here.
To make that. Okay, cool.
Yep. Cool.
Asking
right.
for, that was someone asking in the chat.
Oh, gotcha. Cool. Yeah. Absolutely.
All right, go ahead.
Cool. All right. So now that we've got our sand, we've got our grass, and then below it, we've got our world aligned, and we've got a couple of numbers plugged into that. Everything's connected to our lerp. We're going to take that and just drop it into our base color. Wait for it. Okay. So if you look at our little ball over here, the whole thing looks like it's like sand, right? But what's cool is that because we've got these other numbers on here, we can manipulate them and we'll get different effects on here, which is awesome. Now, I'm not going to do it inside of this material. And the reason I'm not going to do it inside of here is because it's going to take a little while on the stream and get everything kind of chugging away. Like it's not going to be super quick, but we can turn this into what's called a material instance and then have instant access to these. And it's going to change a lot faster. So we're going to go ahead and make that happen. So with this one built as is, we're just going to go ahead and say save up here in the top left. We'll compile this once. Yes, only have to compile it once. Then over here inside of our assets, content. Oh, I got a filter in here. Hold on. There we go. We've got this landscape procedural. Whoa, hey, not what I wanted. Come here. Oop. So this one is the one we just created. I'm going to right click on it. And at the very top, there's this little thing that says create material instance. These instances are faster in game. They take less computing power because the majority of it's already compiled. And we just have to play with those two little numbers that we had already set as parameters. So this is where they're coming back in. It'll create a new one. It'll say M landscape procedural. And at the very end of it, it'll say inst. I personally don't like that. So I'm going to change this to MI. So uppercase M, uppercase I, and then landscape procedural. This is just a nomenclature that I personally use. I know a lot of Unreal users use this. So it looks like we got two identical pieces. This is the master. And if I double click on this, this is the instance. And you'll see I don't have all this crazy noodles and wires going around. But up here at the top, I do have those two. So I've got that blend bias and that blend sharpness. So let's play with these and see what they're actually going to do. So I'm going to turn the camera on the little ball here so it's a little easier to see. And if I turn on my blend bias and if I grab this and start to move it, you can see that as I go down to -1, I can control how much of the grass is covering the surface depending on the direction the normals on this sphere are facing. So that was a lot of words. So basically what that means is from here up, everything that's facing this direction gets grass based on our blend bias. Okay. So we can say our blend sharpness. So if I grab this and move it, you can see that I can get a nice sharp edge. And they do kind of work together and kind of fight each other. So let's move this up a little bit. You can see I can make that a nice sharp edge by changing our bias sharpness. Sorry, blend sharpness. And these sliders, this bottom one only goes to 50 and its lowest is 1. That's what we were setting before in the master, so we can control this. So this is really helpful if you're a technical artist and you want to make sure that your artists can't like crank these numbers far beyond what they should be able to do. So this is really, really nice. So find kind of a number. I'm going to kind of set mine up here. So let's do like, I don't know, -13. Sure, why not? -13 for the blend bias. And then this one will say, I don't know, let's try 40. Yeah, let's try 40. So I'm going to pull this over here to the side so we can kind of see this. Let's move this like so. And then let's bring back our actual level. And if we take that procedural, whoops, make sure that we've actually got our landscape selected. So yep, it's got a little yellow orange outline on it. So that one's selected. Over here on the right-hand side, let's take that landscape material instance and drop it in there. Wait for it. Boom, check it out.
Oh, bam. Nice.
Cool. So let's now play with our material instance. So now we have the ability, and this is going to be a really good spot to kind of play with it. If we take our bias and we move it and then let go, move it up a little further, then let go, you can see we're starting to cover the grass, or sorry, start to cover the ground a little bit more depending on the angle of the actual landscape. So instead of going in here and actually painting this by hand, now we have a couple of tools that allow us to go, oh, well, let's take that sharpness and make it a little bit more fuzzy around the edges. Oh, but now I need to play with the bias a little bit more. There we go. And it fills in everything for you. The downside to this, as an artist, is now I have grass in the bottom of my...
Oh, joy.
So it's got some pluses and minuses. My wife was so funny. She's like, it's just algae. Oh, all right, cool.
Yeah, it kind of fits. Yeah.
Right. But we don't have it out here on the sand either, or at the beach. Okay. So depending on the method you use, you might get a little bit hosed and do what you want. Now, of course, you could come in here and kind of mix and match these pieces together and see if you can get them to work, the way you want them to. Maybe you have two totally different pieces of landscape, or maybe you've got, a whole, like a polygon mesh that actually sits around here that is the actual sand too. Like, what is it? How is it that you want to kind of play with this? Okay. Really bright from that side, a little easier to see from over here. So cool. So now we have these ones in here. All right, so let's go a little bit farther and take this a little bit more awesome. So I'm going to take my material instance and just dock it up here at the top. Let's go back into our procedural one. Remember this one? This is our snow. We still want to put our snow in here. Okay. So let's kind of comment this stuff out so we know exactly what it is. You can actually grab this bottom section down here, just left mouse click over it and press the C key as in Charlie, and you can create a comment. So you can say this is our, I don't know, angle blend. However you want to kind of say that. It's like depending on the angle of the surface, it's going to blend these materials. And you can actually grab these and have them take over, right? I'm actually not going to grab the lerp. And anything inside this comment, you can actually just kind of move it around like so.
I got a question for you.
What do you got?
When is now a good time?
Yeah, now works.
Our good friend Jig, who is a master of infinity. You were talking about infinity earlier, and all I could think of was him because he's the master of infinity. A lot of his maps are themed around infinity, which is fun. So anyway, he asked a question about the procedural generation, and and he wanted to know if you could set a rule like based on. He said the y-axis. I'm assuming he means the z-axis. I said that's so Minecraft of you to think the y-axis, but yeah. So like he wants to know if you could set a rule like if it's below a certain point, then don't do it.
We're about to do that actually.
Oh well, shoot. Look at that, the leading question.
You knew where we were going. Nice. Okay, so yes, you can, and you can kind of fiddle with it. Again, this is the artist's understanding of it. So if you understand more about these pieces, I guarantee you're going to be able to push this much farther than what I'm able to do. But let's kind of jump in there and see what we can do. So inside of our procedural master, okay, so this is our master one. Let's name that master, because seriously, let's right click on it and just come down here and we're just going to say rename. At the end of that, we're just going to make this really long. Master, yay, the longest name ever of all time. Probably should find a way to shorten that. Oh, well. Okay, so inside of our master one in here, we're going to add in that ability. So what we're going to do is we're going to set this up so that our snow is only going to cover the top part of our actual landscape. It's going to be based on the Z, or if you're in Minecraft, the Y axis, so the vertical axis. Okay, so we need a couple of new pieces inside of here. What we're going to add in is what's called a height lerp. So if we right click and type in height, height lerp, there it is right there. Height lerp. Let's back that out a little bit. I can zoom in. There we go. That's much easier to read. So our height lerp. So we've got two inputs. We got our vector 3s. That's what this V stands for. The S is a scalar value. That's what these little guys are right here. These are scalars, just a single value. Okay. And we notice we've got an alpha and a result. We've got lerp alpha, no contrast. We got all kinds of good things in here, right? So what we're going to do is we're going to take our snow and we can actually click on this, and there's a little tiny, just above here at the top of it, this little ellipses dot. If you click on there, we can just name this one. So we'll call this one snow. Yay, now I know that's the snow. We're going to take that and we're going to drop it into the B value. And we want to take our lerp information and we're going to drop that into the A value. Don't worry about this wire. We can just hold down the Alt key and click on it, just get rid of it if you don't really want it. Okay. So now we're going to do a little bit of crazy math because we need to figure out the height at which we want our snow to melt or to stop at, depending on how you kind of want to think about it. So we're going to need to get what's called the absolute world position. So if you right click, and this is a little bit screwy as of this version of Unreal. I know it worked well in the previous ones, but if we were to actually type in absolute ES, you get abs, and that's all you get. So, and it's like, oh, ABSO, like, where is it, right? And if you type in world, like, oh, where did it go, right? And if you do position, like, it doesn't show up, which is kind of a pain in the butt. However, if you scroll to the top of the list, there is the actual coordinates world position, and this is what we're looking for. So let me zoom in on that so you can see it. So this world position, it just doesn't show up in the search bar right now for whatever reason.
If you get rid of the space, would it show?
I've tried like 20 different things. I'm like, whatever, I'll just scroll to the top.
It's right there.
So we want our world position. Now, this is XYZ data, okay? And we don't want the exact numbers. We're actually going to have to do a little bit of math on this. So we're going to drag off of here and we're going to type in divide. We're going to take that number and we're going to divide it. And in this case, I'm going to divide it by 1,000 because it works best, I've noticed. As an artist, I'm like, oh, that's what I'm looking for, right? So inside of this node, you've got an A and a B. So the B, we need to actually put in 1,000 in there. Over here on the far left in the details, we can actually just hard code that number in. So 1,000. You could also, if you want to get it really, fancy with this, right click on it, promote it to a parameter, and then you've actually got this in the material instance afterwards as well. In this case, this works pretty well, so I'm not going to worry about it too much. This right here, this controls the actual height of where the snow starts. This is kind of your base number. This isn't, we're going to be able to manipulate this later, but this is kind of your base number. Okay, so now that we've got R, G, and B, X, Y, and Z, 3 values, okay, we've actually got it, we've divided it. We need only one of those values. We only need the verticality to it, the Z value, the vertical axis. So we're going to pull a wire off of this, and we're going to search for what's called a component mask. If you type in the word mask, you get like bit mask and all these other ones, but right above it, there is the actual component mask. So if you type in component, you can actually get it. It's just a little bit different, and it looks very different too, because if you click on it, you'll notice you get just mask. So that's why I wanted to bring that up. It's another one of those ones that's like, oh, that kind of works, kind of a thing. So in here, you'll notice that we've got R and G, so red and green, and over here in the details, we've got red, green, blue, and alpha. So we're going to turn R and G off. So just toggle off, and turn on the B, which in this case is the Z axis. So we're just kind of changing the way we're working with this. And as RG and B, because in textures and materials, you're usually using RG and B values, not X, Y, and Z, but we can use it the same way. And then we're just going to take that and we're going to drop it into the height texture. This is a grayscale texture taker. This is what this takes. So we're taking just grayscale information into the scaler. So boom. So we've got our world position. We've divided by 1,000. We're taking only the height in here. Let's move all of these down a little bit. And we're putting this into our height. So the results of this, so this top one right here, I'm just going to drag that into our base color. Ta-da. Yay, explained spaghetti. Right? Let's go ahead and say save. Here, I want to scare you all real quick while this is, as soon as this is done, while it's saving, because depending on how fast your computers are. So these blue nodes, they're actually like a bunch of nodes put together, and there's a whole host of these inside the Unreal Engine. There's some really cool things that you can do with this. You can do like automatic wind on like trees. There's a node for that, right? But if you double click any of these, this is what you get.
Hello.
So you can go back and take a look at, for those of you that really want to get into materials, go through here and kind of see how they're putting all these things together. You'll see all kinds of crazy things. We got like switches in here. We got clamps inside of here. it's insanity. Division, subtraction, multiplication, input data, like just all kinds of vector transform, normalize, dots. Like you can get some crazy stuff going on in here. So this is what's called a material function, and you can just kind of use them all over the place. It's really cool.
This is job security right here.
How do you do that?
It's just as simple as just connecting a couple of obscure green boxes with white noodles.
Right. So you can see that they've got things in here like vertex data, world to normal blend, explicit normals. Like, yeah. So I'm just going to close that. Do I want to save? No, thank you. I don't even know what's going on in there. I don't have a clue. Okay. Oh, hey, now that it's actually compiled. Okay. Yeah. So let's back up here. So now we have this. So this whole thing, once it's actually been updated, because we had that other material on there, hey, check it out. We've already got snow on here. Ta-da. So it's taking that height data in the world and actually figuring out where it wants to be. You don't have to. So you can create a node with sliders that actually controls this versus painting it, which is awesome. If we were to bring up that material instance, remember this is that material instance we had. So we've still got that bias in here for where we want the dirt and the grass in here. Let's go back into here and we can actually add in things like our transition phase and our contrast. So we can control these ones as well. So if we right click on these, we'll say promote to a parameter. We'll just pull this one up here, grab this one, say promote to a parameter on the contrast as well. Bring this one down here. Okay. And then save that. We'll compile this one once. This will then add these two to the material instance, which is off screen. There we go. So now you can see we've got our contrast and we've got our transition phase. These are also in alphabetical, by the way. So this is why they're showing up in different orders than they are in the nodes. So if we come back to here, let's say, well, let's play with the actual contrast. And if we crank the contrast up, you will notice that we get a sharper edge on our snow. Let's over here so we can see this a little easier. Drop our contrast down. And if we keep going, you'll notice it covers everything. Okay. So we can control that there. Now we've also got our transition phase. This also kind of controls where this is going to be on the surface and how high it's going to be. So like I said, we've got a couple of different ways we can play with this.
Cool. Bit of trivia. Do you know at the, at least here in Colorado, you know the altitude where the tree line kind of ends?
8,000?
It's a good guess.
That's feet. I actually don't know what it is in meters. I feel ashamed.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's the one I haven't memorized yet.
Maybe the chat can make some guesses at what altitude in feet does the tree line
actually happen.
Distinguishably stop.
All right. So I'm going to do another little thing in here. So let's go into here. I haven't tried this. This is totally unscripted, by the way. So remember we were playing this, the height of where the snow starts. Let's actually promote that to a parameter here too. We'll call this one start line. I have no idea what's going to happen here, right? So we had that default at 1,000. Try that there. I'm not putting anything in my minimum slider or my minimum maximum. We're just going to leave those 0, which will allow us to get to infinities. And then we're going to go ahead and say save. Compile this one. We should then get a new tick over here. Yep. So we've got a start line over here. So let's play with that start line and see what we get. So let's try something like 500. Enough. Look at that. And then 100. Hey, maybe we want to try 2,000. That's way off the screen. However, go into our modes, go back into landscape. Let's actually change this to like 1,500. There we go. So just the top of that, right? So now what's awesome about this is that if we go back into something like our sculpt layer, go over to our sculpt and let's give ourselves a little bit more canvas to sculpt in. Select that actual layer in there. And we're in sculpt. We got that. We got our strength. Let's crank this up. Make this a little bit bigger. So if I start sculpting over here, check it out. This automatically knows that this angle that's on here, right? This is more vertical. So it's going to put that rock texture on it. It's going to put the grass on here. Look at that. It's already got grass up there. And if I keep going, oops, Yep. We'll start to put the snow on there automatically. I don't have to do anything. It just knows that it needs to be up there. Okay. So here's also, let's undo some of those. That's a little bit ridiculous. Looks good from over there, right? There we go. So the other thing that I haven't played with yet, so we need to go back into select that blueprint. Let's get that out of the way. And if I lift this blueprint up,
Ooh,
it just
cool.
automatically does it. Boom.
That's cool.
So awesome.
Dang, then the mind starts to zuzz like crazy. Do me a favor, go back to that material. Go back to that material. The nasty one.
Oh, the nasty thing? The world aligned blend thing?
Zoom out on that. And okay. Hold on a second. I'm getting a
why would you even
I'm getting a screenshot. All right, that's going.
So next week we're not doing this.
So Jig comes back with the tree line answer of 11 to 12K. And I think in 10 to 11 is kind of more representative for most of the mountains out here in Colorado, where the trees don't get enough oxygen to really thrive. So you start getting really scrubby, scrappy looking trees. Little side trivia.
Yeah, that would be a thing. That would totally be a thing.
He said he was searching for height and he spelled height wrong and it wasn't showing anything. And so I told him to try searching for Y.
Rude.
Yeah. He can handle it. Handle it.
Okay, so this works not only on landscapes, this also works on objects, which is really cool. So let's grab just a regular sphere, bring it up here, and let's just make this really big, right? So if we were to, don't ever do this, but if we were to take this material and just drop it directly on there, you can see that it is behaving exactly like we would expect it to. So it's actually got that grass just at the top of it. And if I get this high enough, look at that, it starts to actually turn white. This isn't specific to landscapes. Okay. The painting thing is because it's a landscape layer blend, but the material that we just created is not one of those. So we took a cube. Whoops, I'll go that way. Go this way. Same thing, we can drop that on there. You can see if I drop below that line, the top of it's always have grass on it. So even if I rotate it, see how it stopped? It comes back because it's looking at that angle.
And those angles are not meeting the requirement to have any grass on them because of how steep they are on that 90 degree.
So you can get it to fade. So now that I've turned the rotation snaps off, you can watch it fade away.
Yeah. Mesmerizing.
Do it with math, man. Do it with math.
Yes. The comfy chair.
Right. So then we have our floaty ball thing up there.
I love when a tutorial says, don't ever do this, because that was most of the Minecraft tutorials that I did.
Don't ever do this.
Now you never want to do this.
Not a great idea.
That's like the famous line, here, hold my beer.
Right. Oh, I'm not gonna make it.
Oh shoot. And now you're in the underwater.
So gone. So next week, what I would like to touch on is actually using, let's go up here into modes, the foliage. So we can actually kind of just put some foliage out on this little area. So we'll do some rocks and some trees, some real simple stuff. I have some stuff already pre-made. I'll find some stuff online where y'all can go to get free things and we can just drop them directly into the machine.
Oh, that'd be
We can do that.
awesome.
One of the big things that I would highly suggest if you've never played with it yet is go grab the Quixel Bridge. Oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Yeah, now Quixel is like a company that Epic bought not too long ago that does super duper high res mega scans, right? Is that's Quixel, right? Of terrain and stuff like that. So the realism that you can get in the things you're doing is just absolutely incredible using those materials, and they're free, aren't they? Like a lot of these mega.
So as long as you're using the quick scans stuff inside of the Unreal Engine, it's totally free, completely. You can put it in your games. You can do whatever you want with it.
Yeah.
Like, it's phenomenal. Yeah, the one thing that I'll talk about it again next week too, is the one thing that I would caution about that is that they are so incredibly high resolution, the higher LODs, the higher level of detail ones, that they can choke a lot of machines. They're like cinema quality, and they're supposed to be cinema quality. That's what they are. So we want to use the lower resolution ones. So like maybe not LUD 1 or LUD 0, maybe like 2 or 3. And we'll kind of see that happen too. And we can kind of play with some LOD stuff. Yeah, maybe we'll throw in some LOD stuff next week too. It'd be kind of fun. So that's cool. One last little thing, because I always want to end with something that's super silly and very awesome. If you've got an object inside of your world, it's actually it's an actor inside your level. Okay, so go ahead and select it. And down over here on the far right, there is this little button right here. It says simulate physics. So if you turn that on, you can also control the kilogram weight in there. It will actually, now if I hit play, it will fall and it'll roll away. And check it out. Check out what the material is doing. If that grass is still staying on the top of it.
Yeah.
Push it. I might. There we go.
Oh, strong like bull. We have new strongman competition map.
Right.
This is our new next game. Fall Guys is bought by Epic Games, and then Clever Legs Ball Roller Contest map is next. Look at that going into the water. That's gorgeous. That's so cool. Goodbye. Now it started up at the top of the mountain, so it goes from white.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, it would start up there. I get my camera set up here.
And sticking with your theme of super silly and awesome, Jig had a question. He wants to know if the ocean, I think I know the answer to this, but he wants to know if the ocean is a layer or is it global?
It's we can get to the end of it.
Yeah, it's a layer, right? I mean, we added the ocean as an actual thing. So yeah, you could see it's like an object.
Yeah, it's a physical thing. So this way, speed up the camera, go as fast as you can. There we go.
Yeah, so you could see the edge.
Yeah. You can make these like infinitely huge. I decided not to with the guy going on here, but yeah, look how
like some kind of tiling.
Space. Oh my gosh, so much space. It's ridiculous.
Beautiful. Right. Oh, just a side note. Did you the Fortnite Creative update? Oh. They just introduced XL islands, and they queuing 50 players per map. They added. Oh, look at it go! Oh my gosh, miniature golf. Look out. That's awesome. So, and they also added, there's a hint that, how you run out of memory in the, in Fortnite Creative, they might have like kind of like a render region so that your thermometer is kind of, this is all speculation, but the idea is that
would be cool.
They're only going to load in what you're rendering. And so you can have huge maps and a 100,000 memory within your viewable range. Okay, so Jig has a follow-up question. Does it have volume or is it a plane?
Yes, actually, and I mean that honestly. I usually use that as a sarcastic answer, but it is both. So if we come in here and we do a play, essentially it is a plane. What you see there is a plane that is being manipulated. You can see the surface of it still actually undulating and moving. I'm going to hit F1 on my keyboard and then shift F1 so I can move around. And can I actually get hold on a second. I want to possess or eject from player. So I'm going to eject from player. going to let me do it. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so then hit F1 again. Nope, come on. Do it a little bit different way. So we stop. So I'm going to go up here to play. I'm going to say simulate. Will work better. Great. Now when I hit F1, you're not going to give it to me? Come on. Lit brush wireframe. There we go. So you can see this plane minus the purple thing in the background, but you can actually see it. Let's make it full screen here too. It is a plane. It is being manipulated depending on how close it is to the actual camera. It's being triangulated more, so we get more detail. And as you get further away from it, you can see that it basically kind of stops moving, stops animating, but it becomes less and less dense the further out it is. I don't know how well the compression is going to work, but I can see it. You can actually kind of see a barrier right about there, another threshold there, another threshold there. There's another one that's actually right about there-ish. And you can kind of see how much more detailed it is down here. So yes, it is a plane. The other part of it is that I think I want to go back into lit. And if we zip back down here, it is also a volume. So if you go below it, it does actually have a post-processing volume so that it lets you feel like you're actually underwater.
So cool. So the surface is a manipulated plane, and then the volume is a visible effect. So
if we go to brush wireframe, just like the landscape's doing the same thing. So you can see that the peaks that are further away, how much more, or less tessellated they are. And as I back up, you can kind of see that it actually changes on the fly. I don't know how easy it's going to be to see on the stream, but it does actually change. You can see there's a real obvious line right there. It's a little bit less obvious, but there's another one kind of right about there-ish. And then these ones back here. Right. So this is dynamically tessellating the actual geometry depending on how close and how far away you are from the camera. So just like what Cleverlike was talking about, where that thermometer inside of Fortnite, like, yeah, that's what it's able to kind of work with as well. There are some amazing tools that you can actually play with inside of this program to get it to do what you kind of want it to do as far as how much detail you want in each of the areas. So you can see it updates pretty quick. Like if I slow the camera down a little bit.
Yeah. This is like a retro arcade game right here. Just publish the whole thing in wireframe mode, and you got that tank game from back in the arcade days.
Yep. So then you've got the atmosphere. That's what that purple thing is in the background.
Nice.
Which we did not talk about at all. We just glossed right over it.
Yeah. Well,
good. The more I'm learning about it, the more we're going to be talking about later.
Everybody appreciates that. Yep. That's fun. Oh, this is super cool. This and the foliage, like painting with foliage, trees and bushes and rocks and whatever you come up with for the next one, that's going to be fun next week.
Yep. We got a couple more minutes, so let's kind of play with the material, not that one. Play with this one. Okay, so as an artist, the contrast between this green and this brown is atrocious. It's so close. Like if you squint, it's basically the same. Like, yeah, it's pretty much the same like value. It's horrible, right? So let's make the grass a little bit darker. Oh, we want not the paint one because we don't need that one. Nope, don't need to say that. So inside of here, we're going to take our grass texture. Okay, so let's just name this one grass. And we're going to take its RGB value and we're going to multiply it. Multiply. So I'm just clicking and dragging off the pin and enter. And then we're going to connect that back up into B. So we'll connect that back up. And then this B value down here in the multiply, I'm going to go ahead and create one of those 3 constants. Remember, that's this guy up here, the snow one. So I can hold down the 3 key on my keyboard and left mouse click, and you can get one of those. It's a quick way to make that happen. A little bit more room here. So we're going to take this and we're going to drop it in there. Now, I want to kind of see what this is going to look like. So here's a little trick. If I right click on the multiply, there is is it going to give it to me in here? Start previewing node. Of course, it's right here at the top. So if I start previewing that, we can actually see what this is going to look like. So No surprise, this is completely and totally black up here because anything times 0, 0, 0, 0 is 0. So it's just, whatever colors are in here times black is going to give us black. It's the way we're kind of looking at this, okay? Because we're just looking at these three right here. So if we take this value and we set it to white, say okay, we get our texture back because that times white gives us white. Now we are multiplying it, so it is going to kind of boost it, remember? So if we've got a value in here that's at like 0.5, 0.5 times 1 is, 1.5 or 0.5, however you want to look at it.
Right, but if it's multiplying, it might be set to increase by that amount.
So it's a little bit much, but that's fine. We'll go ahead and leave it as is. I'm going to go ahead and right-click on this and say stop previewing. I'm going to right-click on this one, though, our constant. I'm going to say promote to a parameter, and we're going to call this color. Let's call it power. Well, it's not really power. And it's not really tint. Let's call it boost. Spell that again. Come here. I'm with the other O. Or don't. That's fine. Rename. Okay, we'll do it over here then. There's more than one way to do this. Cool. All right, so we're going to leave that in there. I'm going to go ahead and save that off. So this is just a really simple way to kind of change the colors. Let's go back to our landscape. Let's also bring this up here so you can see this. So this is that procedural material instance. Let's open that one back up, and you'll see we now have a global vector parameter. We didn't give it a proper name, but that's fine. And it says color boost. This is the one I did name it. So if I turn this on and I click on this little white bar, I get a color picker. And if I change this a bit more green, let's make it a little bit darker in here.
Ooh.
Say okay. Ta-da. There we go.
Country club now. Yeah, now we're talking.
Now we can really see what's going on. And everything, all the functionality is still there too. So if we go into our landscape and we're on sculpt, cool. You can see that we're getting all that information.
Oh, man.
Still. It's Namek. Welcome to Namek.
I'm thinking like golf courses here. It must be fun to like have this big terrain and design your own little golf course.
There it is. Something you could also do. Well, I don't think I've got a. Okay, let's see if we can do this. I don't know if we've actually got all the pieces here inside of Unreal. So I'm going to go to content. I'm going to search for noise. Hey, Perlin noise. Perfect. We've got a Perlin noise in here. Let's go back into our procedural in here. And let's see if we can add some noise to the snow. Let's bring this over here. So let's grab that, bring that in there. What do we got? We got transition phase. Let's actually add it to the transition. Let's see if we can add it to the transition phase. So we've got a scalar parameter here. This gives us this where the actual snow kind of transitions as opposed to the height. It's a little bit different there. We could actually add it to the height. Let's try with the transition. Let's grab this one and do a multiply. And then we'll plug this one to there and grab that one. And that one's going into the transition phase. I have no idea if this is going to work at all. My hope is that we're going to get a difference in the actual variation of the snow across the edge. Yeah, look at that.
Zoom in on that.
It's very obviously a repeating texture, but it is doing it.
It is. That's nice. I like that. Yeah. I mean, you have to understand that the repeating part will be polished in another pass, but
right, yeah. So we could go. Although we could probably play with this quite a bit, still get away with some of this. Like if we were to grab that transition phase now and kind of play with it. Yeah, so you can make it like go away. Let's get the brush out of there. Holy moly. But then our contrast, let's turn that contrast down. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. It's really subtle, but it's doing it. If we did it like a 0 versus like a 0.5, you can see that it's got 1, 10, -1 goes the other way.
Shoot.
Yeah,
and look, somebody shoveled the top of the mountain.
There's a volcano up there.
It just dusted it off.
So yeah, this is materials for me are just like a playground. They're so much fun.
Yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, and it's definitely like, layers. Like you get the basic one in there, and then you start to fine tune based on altitude and other things like that. The one question I had, like with the river, can you just, since this is like a layered, like non-destructive type thing, can you just create a new layer and then repaint the bottom of the river with a different thing, so that if you didn't want grass there, you can.
So yeah, I was trying to take so we've got our paint in here. So the painting it in there uses this layer blend. And you could, and I couldn't get it to work last night while I was playing with it, but you could in theory take this layer blend, and actually drop that into this height lerp as well, so that it would actually be, so if you were to do like the landscape layer blend, right? And then add in our array bits. And that one in there. Whoops. I go this way. That one in there. And then this one in there. And then drop this in up here. We should be able to paint these and then be able to still get that height information. But this would then also need to be like, before here. And then this one would have to be up there, I think. And I've seen a couple of videos where I've seen the nodes hooked up like this and it works. I've never gotten it to work. So I don't know if it's a previous version, it was fine, and it's since then been broken. But there's got to be a way to do it. I would put money on that. There's got to be a way to do it.
Yeah. Cool. More to explore.
Never ends. I know for sure that this setup works.
Yes. Yeah. Cool. Well, thank you for Gatlin. A round of applause for Gatlin for showing us all this cool stuff.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you. I could have followed along if I had known where I saved my project, but instead I got to have an engaging conversation with Jig about axes, Y versus Z. Yeah, Jig, thanks for joining us. That was super, super fun. And if you have any thoughts on stuff we can do in the future, we're going to keep on doing things like this. We got lots of other things kind of in the works and planned. Next episode. Shut up. Shut up. Yeah. So, I mean, that could be a useful episode. I'm sure I'm not the only one that has lost their thing talking about their project.
Speaking of which, I'm totally going to save right now.
Good idea. Yeah, cool. All right. So yeah, I'm back to creating more screenshots that make it fun to explain to people what I do for a living. So I'm going to go bury myself in some command blocks now. So
cool.
And other.
Yeah. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. Yeah. Bring some rocks and some trees next week, and we'll paint this place up and make a thing.
Sounds good. Cool. Awesome. Thanks, Gatlin. Thanks for everybody for joining. If you're watching the recording and have a question, throw it in the comments and we'll check it out. So if you've stayed this long to hear that bit and you leave a comment, we're going to think it's very important. So we'll check it out. So cool. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. Talk to you soon.